My name is Elena Torres, and this morning I became one of the wealthiest women in California. By tonight, I would discover I had been one of the poorest all along. The lawyer's voice still echoed in my head as I clutched the inheritance documents. $100 million. Uncle Richard had left everything to me, his favorite niece, the one who visited him every Sunday at the nursing home when everyone else was too busy, the one who held his hand when he talked about Aunt Margaret, who brought him his favorite empanadas, who listened to his stories about building his restaurant empire from a single taco truck. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip my phone as I sat in the parking lot of Morrison and Associates. I had to tell Marcus, my husband, my partner of 8 years, the man who had supported me through nursing school, who had held me when my father died, who had promised me forever on a beach in Cancun with a ring he'd saved 6 months to buy. I should have called first. I know that now. But in that moment, all I could think about was seeing his face, watching his eyes light up when he realized we were free. Free from the cramped apartment in Van Nuys, free from my double shifts at Cedars-Sinai, free from his soul-crushing job at his father's insurance firm where they treated him like an errand boy despite his MBA. We could travel. We could start the photography business he'd always dreamed about. We could finally start trying for the baby we'd been putting off because we could barely afford ourselves, let alone a child. I drove home too fast, running a yellow light on Sepulveda, my heart pounding with a joy so intense it felt like I might burst. Our apartment was in a converted complex in Sherman Oaks. Nothing special, but it was ours. Marcus's car was in his usual spot. He was home early. Perfect. I took the stairs 2 at a time, fumbling with my keys. I could already imagine it. I'd burst through the door, wave the papers, and watch my serious, responsible husband lose his composure for once. Maybe he'd pick me up and spin me around like he did on our wedding day. Maybe we'd order champagne. Maybe we'd just hold each other and cry. The door was unlocked. That should have been my first clue. Marcus always locked the door. Always. It was one of his things, a holdover from growing up in a rough neighborhood. "Lock the door behind you, Elena," he'd say every single morning. "Please." I pushed it open, calling out, "Marcus, babe, you won't believe what just..." And that's when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong in my home. A woman's voice, low and breathless, coming from our bedroom. Not words exactly, just sounds. The kind of sounds I'd made with Marcus in that same bedroom, in that same bed, under sheets we'd picked out together at Target. My body knew before my mind caught up. My stomach dropped. My skin went cold. The inheritance papers slipped from my fingers and scattered across our worn carpet. I walked down the hallway. Each step felt like moving through water. I could see our bedroom door, slightly ajar. I could see the slice of afternoon light falling across our floor. I could hear everything now. Not just her. Him too. Marcus, my husband. Making sounds I knew intimately. Sounds that belonged to us, to our private world. I should have left. I should have turned around, walked out, processed this anywhere but here. But my hand reached out and pushed the door open. They didn't notice me at first. They were too wrapped up in each other. Marcus and a woman with long dark hair splayed across my pillow. It took me 3 full seconds to recognize her. Sophia, my sister, my baby sister. The scream that came out of me didn't sound human. It was animal, primal, the sound of something being ripped apart. They broke apart. Marcus's face went white. Sophia grabbed for the sheet, her eyes wide with something that might have been fear or might have been guilt. I couldn't tell. I couldn't see anything clearly. The room was spinning. "Elena!" Marcus stumbled out of bed, reaching for his boxers. "Elena, wait, please." "How long?" My voice didn't sound like mine. It was too calm, too flat. Shock, probably. The same tone I used at the hospital when I had to tell a family their loved one didn't make it. Clinical, detached. "How long has this been happening?" Sophia sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. She was wearing my necklace, the one Marcus had given me for our 5th anniversary. I watched it catch the light against her collarbone, and something inside me cracked. "Lena, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We didn't mean for this to happen. It just..." "How long?" I repeated each word separately, carefully, like I was explaining something to a child. Marcus and Sophia exchanged a look. In that single glance, I saw everything. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. They had a language together, these two. A history. 6 months, Marcus said quietly. It started at your birthday party, at your mom's house. 6 months. I tried to map it backwards in my mind. My birthday party in May, the one where Sophia had seemed so quiet, so withdrawn. I'd thought she was depressed about her recent breakup with that musician. I'd comforted her. I told her she'd find someone better. I'd held my baby sister while she cried about being alone, all while she was sleeping with my husband. "Get out," I heard myself say. "Both of you, get out of my apartment." "Elena, please, we need to talk about this." Marcus was pulling on his jeans now, moving toward me. "This isn't what you think. I love you, I do, but Sophia and there's something here, something real. We didn't want to hurt you." I laughed. I actually laughed. It sounded like glass breaking. "You didn't want to hurt me? You're fucking my sister in our bed and you didn't want to hurt me?" "Lena, please." Sophia was crying now, mascara running down her face. "You have to understand. We tried to fight it. We tried so hard, but you're always working. You're never here, and Marcus and we connected. Before I knew what I was doing, I'd crossed the room. I grabbed the necklace around her throat and yanked. The chain broke with a satisfying snap. "This is mine," I said, holding the broken jewelry in my fist. "This apartment is mine. That man you're fucking, he's supposed to be mine. But apparently I was wrong about all of it." I turned to Marcus. He looked pathetic standing there shirtless, his hair messed up from my sister's hands. "I came here to tell you something," I said. Each word felt like spitting out broken teeth. "I inherited $100 million today. 100 million. Uncle Richard left me everything." I watched his face change, watched the color come back, watched something spark in his eyes. Not remorse, not shame, calculation. "Elena, my God, that's incredible." He took a step toward me, hands outstretched like we were going to hug, like he hadn't just been inside my sister. "We can fix this. We can work through this. People make mistakes. With that kind of money, we can start over. We, I said softly. "There is no we, Marcus. There hasn't been a we for 6 months, apparently. There's just you and her and me standing here like the world's biggest idiot." I turned and walked out. Behind me, I could hear Marcus calling my name, hear Sophia sobbing, hear the frantic sounds of them getting dressed to follow me. I didn't care. I walked through the living room, past the couch where Marcus and I had watched 1,000 movies, past the kitchen where Sophia and I had made Sunday breakfast just last week, past the life I thought I had. The inheritance papers were still scattered on the floor near the entrance. I bent down, gathered them carefully, and walked out the door. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. 13 missed calls from Marcus, 7 from Sophia, 5 from my mother. Word traveled fast in my family. I turned the phone off. The sun was setting over the valley, painting the smog, hazy sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful, in its own broken way. I thought about Uncle Richard, about the last conversation we'd had before the pneumonia took him. "Mija," he'd said, his voice weak but his grip on my hand still strong. "Money doesn't make you happy, but it does make you free. Don't waste that freedom on people who don't deserve it." I thought he was talking about being generous, about not letting wealth change me. Now I understood. He was telling me that freedom meant choice. The choice to walk away. The choice to start over. The choice to let go of people who treated your love like something disposable. Before I knew what I was doing, I started calling a lawyer. I needed a divorce attorney, a good one. I needed to understand my rights, my options, what happened to inheritance in California, community property law. Then I called my supervisor at the hospital and requested a leave of absence. "Family emergency," I said, which wasn't a lie. Then I called the one person I knew I could trust. My best friend from nursing school, Maya, who'd moved to Portland 3 years ago and begged me to visit. "Elena, it's 11 o'clock. What's wrong?" "Can I come stay with you?" My voice finally broke. "I need to get out of LA. I need to not be here right now." "Of course. Always. What happened?" "I'll tell you when I get there." I drove to a hotel near the airport, one of those generic chains that all look the same, with industrial carpet and art that isn't really art. I checked in under my maiden name, paid cash even though I had $100 million in assets I couldn't touch yet, and finally let myself fall apart. I cried for hours, for the marriage I thought I had, for the sister I thought I knew, for the life I'd been planning in my head on the drive home from the lawyer's office. I cried until there was nothing left but emptiness and a strange, cold clarity. Marcus texted me at 2 a.m. I turned my phone back on to book a flight. "Elena, please come home. We need to talk about this, about us, about the money, about everything. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. We can get through this. Please." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked his number, then I blocked Sophia's. Then I blocked my mother's because I knew exactly what that conversation would be. "He made a mistake, mija. Men make mistakes. Your sister is young and foolish. You have to forgive. Family forgives." No, I didn't have to forgive. I didn't have to do anything except survive this. The inheritance would take weeks to fully process. In the meantime, I had my savings, my nursing license, and a plane ticket to Portland leaving in 6 hours. I lay in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about what Uncle Richard had really given me. Not just money. Freedom. The freedom to walk away from people who betrayed me. The freedom to start over. The freedom to choose myself. For the first time in 8 years, I didn't have to worry about Marcus's feelings, Marcus's dreams, Marcus's family. For the first time in my entire life, I didn't have to be the responsible older sister, cleaning up Sophia's messes, making excuses for her chaos. I was free. And tomorrow, I would start figuring out what that meant. But tonight, I let myself grieve for the woman who had walked into that apartment this afternoon, full of joy and hope and love. She was gone now. Someone else was taking her place. Someone harder. Someone who had learned, in the worst possible way, that the people you trust most are the ones who can destroy you most completely. And someone who would never, ever let that happen again. I boarded the flight to Portland at 6 a.m. with nothing but my purse, my phone, and the clothes on my back. Everything else, every physical piece of my life with Marcus, was still in that apartment. I'd deal with it later. Right now, I just needed distance. Maya was waiting at baggage claim even though I'd told her not to bother, that I'd take an Uber. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "We don't have to talk about it yet," she said. "Let's just get you home." Home. The word felt foreign. I didn't have a home anymore. Her apartment in the Pearl District was everything mine wasn't. Bright, organized, filled with plants that were actually alive and art that she'd chosen deliberately. She set me up in her guest room, brought me tea I didn't drink, and sat with me in silence until I was ready to talk. It all came out in a rush. The inheritance, walking in on them, the necklace, Marcus's face when I told him about the money, Sophia's tears that felt more like self-pity than remorse. Maya listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said simply, "What do you need?" "I don't know." It was the truest thing I'd said in hours. "I don't know anything anymore." "Okay, then we start small. Today, you sleep. Tomorrow, we make a plan." I slept for 14 hours. When I woke up, my phone had 63 messages. I deleted them all without reading them. The divorce attorney Maya recommended was a woman named Catherine Park, 50-something, Korean American, with an office that smelled like jasmine tea and looked like it belonged to someone who won a lot. "Tell me everything," she said, pen poised over a legal pad. I did. She listened, occasionally making notes, her face giving nothing away. "The good news," she said when I finished, "is that inheritance received during marriage is generally separate property in California, as long as you keep it separate. Don't commingle it with joint accounts. Don't use it to pay off joint debts. The house you might buy, put it in your name only. Investments, your name only. And the bad news? The bad news is that he's going to fight you. Men like your husband, men who depend on their wives emotionally and financially, they don't let go easily, especially not when there's $100 million on the table. He can't touch it though, right? The inheritance. Not if we're smart. But he can make the divorce expensive, drawn out, and painful. He can claim he's entitled to support. He can drag your sister into it. He can make you want to settle just to make it stop." I thought about that, about Marcus using our life together as leverage, about having to negotiate with the man who'd betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. "I don't care how long it takes," I said. "I don't care how much it costs. He gets nothing from me, not $1 of that inheritance, not one moment more of my time than legally required." Catherine smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a woman who'd just been told to go to war. "Then let's begin." The first week in Portland, I barely left Maya's apartment. I called in to extend my leave of absence. I started therapy with a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, who specialized in trauma and betrayal. I began the painful process of untangling my life from Marcus's. Joint bank account? Closed. My half transferred to a new account in my name only. Credit cards? Canceled. Car insurance? Split. Health insurance? I'd figure that out. Every small severance felt like pulling off a bandage. It hurt, but underneath, I could feel something starting to heal. Marcus tried everything. Calls from different numbers, emails that oscillated between apologetic and angry, a letter delivered to Maya's apartment somehow, 20 pages of his feelings, his pain, his justifications. I read the first paragraph and threw the rest away. Sophia was quieter. Just one text that got through before I changed my number. I never meant to hurt you. I love him. I'm sorry you can't understand that. The thing that broke me wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing how long I'd been blind, how many signs I'd missed or ignored or rationalized away. The time 6 months ago, when Marcus started going to the gym more, coming home showered and energized, I thought he was finally taking care of himself, the way Sophia had started asking about Marcus more. How's your husband? Is he happy? Does he talk about me? I thought she was trying to be closer to me, to understand my life. The weekend Marcus said he had to work, but I saw Sophia's Instagram story from the beach. She'd been with friends, she'd said later. I hadn't asked which friends. Every memory was poisoned now. Every moment I'd thought was real had a shadow version where they were laughing at me, at stupid Elena who worked 70-hour weeks to support a husband who was sleeping with her sister. You need to stop doing that, Dr. Chen said gently in our third session. Stop rewinding. Stop looking for clues. It won't change what happened. But I need to understand how I missed it, how I could be so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. And the people who are supposed to love us, we give them the benefit of the doubt. That's not a flaw. That's human. It feels like a flaw. I know it does, but Elena, you need to hear this. What they did says everything about who they are and nothing about who you are. You didn't fail. They did. I wanted to believe her. Some days I almost did. The inheritance paperwork was moving forward. Uncle Richard's estate attorney, a kind older man named Mr. Morrison, called me weekly with updates. There were properties to assess, businesses to evaluate, investments to transfer. It would be months before I had full access to everything, but he could release initial funds. How much do you need right now? He asked. I thought about it. Thought about the hotel I'd stayed in that first night, the flight to Portland, the lawyer's retainer. Enough to start over, I said. He transferred $5 million to my new account. $5 million, more money than I'd ever imagined having, and it was just the beginning. I stared at the balance on my phone and felt nothing. The money didn't fix the betrayal. It didn't make me less alone. It just gave me options. I bought a condo in Portland's Pearl District, 3 blocks from Maya. Nothing extravagant, just a 2-bedroom with light-filled rooms and a view of the city. My first home that was truly entirely mine. I bought furniture, not expensive furniture, just things I liked. A blue couch because Marcus had always insisted on leather. Plants because I'd always wanted them. Art from local galleries, paintings that spoke to me even if I didn't understand why. I started walking every morning along the Willamette River. Started cooking again, recipes I'd never made because Marcus didn't like this or that. Started reading books I'd put off for years because there was never time. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, I started to feel like a person again. Not the person I'd been before. That Elena was gone, buried in the rubble of my marriage. But someone new, someone harder and softer at the same time. 2 months after I left LA, my mother finally got through to me. Maya gave her my new number, thinking I was ready. I wasn't, but I answered anyway. Elena Maria Torres, do you know what you've put this family through? Not are you okay? Not I'm sorry this happened to you. Just accusation. Hello, Mama. Your sister is devastated. Absolutely devastated. She made a mistake, yes, but she's young. She didn't mean for it to go this far. And Marcus pobrecito, he's been calling me every day, begging me to talk to you. He loves you, mija. He wants to fix this. I closed my eyes, counted to 10. Did Sophia tell you how long it was going on? A few weeks, she said, a moment of weakness. These things happen. 6 months, Mama. It was 6 months. And it wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a choice. They chose each other, again and again and again, in my bed, in my home, while I was at work saving lives, Silence. Then, "You're being dramatic. Marriage is work. You forgive. You move forward." "Did Papa cheat on you?" "No, but—" "Then don't tell me to forgive this. You don't know what it feels like." "I know what it feels like to watch my daughter tear this family apart over pride." The words hit like a slap. "I'm tearing the family apart? Mama, they betrayed me. They destroyed my marriage. How is that my fault?" "You were never home, Elena. Always working, always tired. What did you expect? A man has needs. And Sophia, she was lonely after her breakup. They found comfort in each other. Is it right? No, but is it worth losing your family over?" I felt something crystallize inside me, cold and final. If you're asking me to choose between my self-respect and my family, I choose me every time. You're making a mistake. That inheritance, that money, it's making you think you don't need anyone. But money doesn't love you back. Mija, family does. No, Mama. Family is supposed to love you. These people just hurt me and expected me to say thank you. I hung up, blocked her number 2. The orphan feeling that came after was crushing, but also freeing. I had no family now. No husband, no sister, no mother. Just myself and the life I was building from scratch. The divorce proceedings officially began in month 3. Catherine Park was as ruthless as promised. Marcus wanted spousal support, claiming he'd sacrificed his career for my nursing school. Catherine demolished that argument with pay stubs, showing he'd earned more than me until 2 years ago, and that he'd been at his father's firm by choice, not necessity. Marcus wanted half of everything, including the inheritance. Catherine had the law on her side. Inheritance is separate property, end of story. Marcus wanted to drag it out, wanted negotiations, wanted meetings. Catherine refused everything, pushed for trial, called his bluff. Discovery was brutal. We had to turn over everything, bank statements, emails, text messages. I had to sit in a conference room while Marcus's lawyer tried to paint me as a cold, absent wife who drove her husband into the arms of another woman. "Isn't it true, Ms. Torres, that you worked 60, 70-hour weeks regularly?" "Yes." "And isn't it true that you often came home too exhausted for intimacy with your husband?" "Sometimes." "In fact, you and Mr. Reyes hadn't been intimate in over 3 months before the alleged affair, correct?" Catherine objected, but I answered anyway. "We hadn't been intimate because every time I tried, Marcus said he was tired. Now I know why." The lawyer's face tightened. "You're claiming your husband rejected you?" "I'm stating a fact. Check his phone records. Check the hotel receipts we found. He was busy with my sister. We had the evidence." Maya had gone back to my apartment with a police escort and a locksmith while Marcus was at work. She'd packed my things and, God bless her, she'd checked his laptop. He'd been stupid enough to not clear his browser history. Hotel rooms, restaurants, text messages synced to the cloud. Sophia calling him baby. Marcus promising her, as soon as the inheritance clears, we'll be set. That last one was what Catherine called the smoking gun. Proof that Marcus had known about the inheritance before I did. Proof that he'd been planning to stay married long enough to claim half. "How did he know?" I asked Catherine, staring at messages dated a week before Uncle Richard died. She pulled up another document, an email chain. Marcus had contacted Uncle Richard's estate attorney's office a month earlier, claiming he needed to update emergency contact information for his wife. The paralegal, not knowing any better, had mentioned that Mr. Torres was in the process of finalizing his will. Marcus had put it together, had known money was coming, had stayed with me, kept sleeping with my sister, and waited. The betrayal had layers. Every time I thought I'd reached the bottom, I found another level down. The deposition was worse. I had to sit across from Marcus in a conference room and answer questions under oath while he watched. He looked different, thinner, tired, almost sympathetic until I remembered that he was probably up late with Sophia in what used to be our apartment. "Ms. Torres," his attorney began, "did you love your husband?" I thought I did. What does that mean? It means I loved the person I thought he was, the person he pretended to be. I don't think I ever knew the real Marcus. Isn't it true that you neglected your marriage in favor of your career? No. But you worked extensive hours. I worked the hours required of a nurse in a trauma unit. Marcus knew that when he married me. Did you ever consider his needs? Catherine cut in. Objection, relevance. I'll allow it, the mediator said. I looked directly at Marcus for the first time. I considered his needs every day. I worked those hours so we could save for a house, for a future, for the life he said he wanted. I came home exhausted and still cooked dinner. I still made time for us on my days off. I still tried. What I didn't do was psychically intuit that he was sleeping with my sister while I was inserting chest tubes and coding patients in the ICU. Marcus looked away. The deposition lasted 4 hours. By the end, even his lawyer seemed exhausted by the exercise. There was no defense for what he'd done, just attempts to make it seem less terrible, more understandable, somehow my fault. At the lunch break, Marcus cornered me in the hallway while our lawyers were in the bathroom. "Elena, please, can we just talk? Just the two of us?" "We have nothing to say to each other." "I miss you." His voice cracked. "I know I fucked up. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I miss you. The apartment is empty without you. Everything is empty." I studied his face, tried to find any remnant of the man I'd loved. "Do you miss me, or do you miss the $100 million? "That's not fair." "None of this is fair, Marcus. You didn't just cheat. You cheated with my sister, in our bed, for 6 months, while planning to stay married long enough to steal my inheritance. Fair went out the window a long time ago." "I never meant—" "What? You never meant to hurt me? You never meant to fall in love with her? You never meant to get caught?" I shook my head. "You meant all of it. Every choice, every lie, every time you came home and kissed me after being with her. You meant it all. I do love you, Elena. I know you don't believe me, but I do. You don't love me. You love the idea of me. The wife who works hard and asks for nothing and makes you feel like a good man. But I'm not her anymore. She died the day I walked into our bedroom." Catherine emerged from the bathroom and took my arm. "We're done here." As we walked away, Marcus called after me. "Sophia's pregnant." I froze, turned slowly. "What?" "She's pregnant. About 8 weeks. We didn't plan it, but I thought you should know." The hallway tilted. 8 weeks. They'd still been together after I left. Of course they had. I was the only one who'd ended things. They'd lost me and found each other. "Congratulations," I said flatly. "I'm sure you'll be very happy." I made it to Catherine's car before I threw up in a bush outside the building. Sophia was pregnant. My sister was carrying my husband's baby. Ex-husband, pending the final paperwork, but still. They were having a child together. A child that should have been mine. Marcus and I had been trying before everything fell apart. Not seriously, not with doctors or planning, but we'd stopped preventing it. Every month when my period came, I'd felt a small disappointment. I'd imagined what our child would look like. Marcus's eyes, my hair, a little boy who loved dinosaurs or a little girl who wanted to be an astronaut. That future was gone, and in its place was this grotesque parody. Marcus and Sophia playing house, starting the family I'd wanted with him. "I need you to breathe," Catherine said, handing me water. "In through your nose, out through your mouth." I did. The nausea passed. The shock settled into something heavier. "They're having a baby," I said. I heard. "I can't. I don't know how to." "You don't have to know. You just have to keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other." I nodded, but everything felt surreal, like I was watching my life happen to someone else. Dr. Chen helped me process it in our next session. "What are you feeling?" "I don't know. Everything? Nothing?" "That's normal. This is another loss, another grief." "I should hate her," I said. "The baby, but I don't. I just feel sad for me, for the baby, for everything. Grief isn't linear. You can feel sad for yourself and sad for them and angry at them all at the same time. Those feelings don't cancel each other out." I wanted kids with Marcus. I thought we'd have them someday. You still can, with someone else, or alone, or maybe you'll decide you don't want them after all. But this isn't your only chance, Elena. Logically, I knew she was right. I was 33, I had time, I had resources, I had options women in my mother's generation never had. But emotionally, I felt robbed. They'd taken my future and made it their present. The pregnancy changed things. Marcus's lawyer started pushing harder for spousal support, claiming he needed to provide for his child. Catherine shut that down immediately. "Your client's child with Ms. Torres' sister has no bearing on this divorce settlement. Ms. Torres is not responsible for supporting his extramarital children." It was brutal, hearing it laid out like that in legal language. Extramarital children, the formal term for the baby my husband made with my sister while married to me. The trial date was set for 6 months out. In the meantime, I had to live with the knowledge that somewhere in LA, Sophia's belly was growing, somewhere Marcus was playing expectant father, somewhere my mother was probably planning a baby shower, and I was here in Portland, alone, building a life from rubble. Maya tried to keep me busy. Dinners out, movie nights, hiking in the gorge. She introduced me to her friend group, Portland transplants and natives who accepted me without questions. They didn't know about Marcus or Sophia or the money. They just knew I was Maya's friend, recently divorced, still finding my footing. It was nice, being anonymous, being Elena, who liked hiking and Thai food and terrible reality TV, not Elena, whose husband fucked her sister. One of Maya's friends, a software engineer named David, asked me out. He was nice, funny, age-appropriate, emotionally available, as far as I could tell. I said no. Too soon? Maya asked. Too everything. I wasn't ready. Wasn't sure I'd ever be ready. The idea of trusting someone again felt impossible. The idea of being vulnerable, of letting someone in, of believing promises felt like volunteering to be hurt. But I was also lonely, achingly, profoundly lonely. I'd gone from a life full of people, my husband, my sister, my family, my work colleagues, to this small, careful existence. Maya was wonderful, but she had her own life, her own relationship. I couldn't build my entire world around her friendship, so I started trying. Small things. I joined a book club at Powell's, started taking a pottery class, volunteered at a free clinic 1 day a week, just enough to remember who I was before everything fell apart. The pottery class was where I met Janet. 72, widowed, absolutely filthy sense of humor. She took one look at my lopsided bowl and said, "That's terrible. Let me show you." We became unexpected friends. She invited me to dinner at her house in Laurelhurst, fed me pot roast that tasted like childhood, and told me about losing her husband of 49 years. Everyone said I'd never survive it, she said, pouring us both wine, that I was too dependent on him, too old to start over. You know what I did? What? I learned to fix my own sink, took a woodworking class, went to Iceland alone. Not because I wanted to prove anything to anyone else, but because I wanted to prove it to myself, that I could. Were you happy after? She considered. Not at first. For a long time, I was just hollow, going through the motions, but eventually, yes, different than before, but still good, still worth it. How long did it take? Couple years, maybe? There's no timeline for grief, honey. You just wake up one day and realize you made it through the night without thinking about them. And then it's 2 nights. And then a week. And eventually they're just part of your history, not your present. I wanted that. Wanted Marcus and Sophia to be history, faded and irrelevant. But I wasn't there yet. The divorce finally went to trial in month 8. I flew back to LA for the proceedings, staying in a hotel downtown, nowhere near our old neighborhood. The trial lasted 3 days. 3 days of lawyers arguing over the scraps of a life we'd built together. Marcus wanted half of my retirement account, accumulated during the marriage. Catherine argued that my inheritance made any claim on my nursing income moot. The judge agreed. Marcus wanted alimony. Catherine presented evidence of his affair, his plans to stay married for the money, his current cohabitation with Sophia. The judge denied alimony. Marcus wanted something, anything, from the wreckage. The judge gave him his car, his personal possessions, and nothing else. This court finds that Mr. Reyes's conduct during the marriage, specifically his affair with the petitioner's sister, and his apparent motivation to remain married solely for financial gain, negates any claim to spousal support or division of separate property. The inheritance received by Ms. Torres from her uncle is hers alone. This marriage is hereby dissolved. The gavel came down. It was over. I waited for relief, for joy, for something, but I just felt tired. Outside the courthouse, Marcus caught up with me. Sophia was with him, visibly pregnant now, maybe 5 months along. She hung back, but Marcus approached. "Elena, can we talk, please?" I looked at him, really looked at him. He seemed smaller somehow, or maybe I was bigger, stronger, different. "There's nothing left to say, Marcus. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But Elena, we were together for 8 years. That has to mean something." It did mean something. It meant everything to me, but you destroyed it. You don't get to claim those years now. You don't get to use our history as a weapon or a shield or whatever this is. He looked past me at Sophia. She's scared. The baby's coming in a few months and we don't have anywhere to live. The apartment lease is up and we can't afford to renew it, and my parents won't help because of what I did to you, and you want me to what? Give you money? Give you the apartment? Give you something so you can start your life with my sister? No, I don't know. I thought maybe you thought I'd save you, like I always did, like I did for 8 years. I shook my head. I'm not your safety net anymore. Figure it out yourself. I walked away. This time he didn't follow. Sophia did. Elena, wait. Please. I turned. My baby sister stood there, one hand on her swollen belly, looking impossibly young and impossibly lost. I'm sorry, she said. I know you don't believe me, but I am. I never meant to fall in love with him. I tried not to. But Elena, you were never home. You were always at the hospital, and Marcus was there, and he listened and— Stop. My voice was hard. Don't make this my fault. I worked hard because I was building a life. A life that was supposed to include you, by the way. Did you know that? I was going to help you with grad school. I was going to be there when you needed me, like I always was. And you repaid me by sleeping with my husband? I know it was wrong, but I love him, Lena. I really do. And he loves me, and we're having a baby, and I thought maybe eventually you could what? Forgive you? Be the aunt to your baby? Act like we're still a family? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. Sophia, you didn't just betray me. You destroyed any possibility of a relationship between us, forever. Don't say that. It's the truth. You made your choice. Now live with it. Mama says you've changed, that the money made you cold. The money didn't change me. You did. You and Marcus, you both taught me that the people you love most can hurt you the worst. That trust is for fools. That family means nothing when there's something they want more. So yeah, I changed. I had to. Tears ran down Sophia's face. I miss you. You should have thought about that before you fucked my husband. I walked away. This time, I didn't look back. The flight home to Portland felt different, lighter. I'd gone to LA carrying 8 years of marriage, of shared history, of unfinished business. I was leaving with none of it, just myself and the future. Maya picked me up from the airport, took one look at my face and said, "It's done? It's done. How do you feel?" I thought about it. Free. We went to my condo and Maya opened a bottle of champagne. To freedom, she toasted. To freedom, I echoed. We drank and talked and laughed, and for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I could breathe. The inheritance finalized 2 weeks later. $100 million transferred into accounts bearing only my name, properties in 3 states, investments in a dozen companies, Uncle Richard's restaurant empire, which his managers had been running successfully in his absence. Mr. Morrison walked me through everything in a video call. You're a wealthy woman, Ms. Torres. What do you want to do with it? What did I want? I'd spent 8 months in survival mode, just getting through each day. I hadn't thought about what came after. I want to do something good, I said. Something that matters. Such as, I thought about my years at Cedars-Sinai, the patients who couldn't afford care, the families bankrupted by medical bills, the nurses working 3 jobs to make ends meet. I want to start a foundation, something for healthcare workers, scholarships, grants, emergency funds for people in crisis, something that helps people like I used to be. Mr. Morrison smiled. That sounds like exactly what your uncle would have wanted. We started planning. The Elena Torres Foundation, dedicated to supporting healthcare workers and providing medical care for underserved communities. I hired administrators, set up the legal structure, and began the work of figuring out how to give money away responsibly. It was harder than I expected. Good philanthropy requires strategy, research, accountability, but it was also fulfilling in a way nursing had never quite been. I was still helping people, but on a scale I'd never imagined. 6 months after the divorce finalized, Sophia had her baby, a girl. I know because my mother sent me a photo with a message. You have a niece. Her name is Isabella. I looked at the photo, a tiny red face, swaddled in pink, Marcus holding her, looking terrified and awed. Sophia in a hospital bed, exhausted but smiling. I felt nothing, no anger, no sadness, no longing, just a distant acknowledgement that somewhere in Los Angeles, my former life was continuing without me. I deleted the photo, blocked my mother's new number, and moved on. A year after I'd walked into that apartment and found my life in ruins, I was different. Not healed, exactly. Maybe you never fully heal from betrayal like that. But I was whole again, a different kind of whole. I had work I cared about, friends I trusted, a life that was entirely mine. I'd started dating, cautiously. Nothing serious, but I was learning how to be open again, how to trust in small doses, how to let people in without giving them the power to destroy me. Janet, my pottery friend, told me I seemed lighter. You don't carry them around anymore, she said. Marcus and your sister. They're not in your pocket everywhere you go. She was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped performing my grief, stopped defining myself by what had been done to me. I was just Elena again. Not Elena, the betrayed wife. Not Elena, the wronged sister. Just Elena. I thought about Uncle Richard sometimes, wondered if he'd known what his gift would mean. The inheritance hadn't made me happy, exactly, but it had given me the freedom to find happiness on my own terms, the freedom to walk away from people who hurt me, the freedom to build something new. I still had hard days, days when I saw a couple holding hands and felt the ghost of what I'd lost, days when I wondered if I'd ever trust someone enough to marry again, days when the loneliness was crushing. But I also had good days, days when I laughed until my sides hurt with Maya, days when I saw the scholarship recipient we'd funded graduate from nursing school, days when I woke up in my sun-filled condo and felt grateful for the life I'd built. And slowly, gradually, the good days started outnumbering the bad. 2 years after everything fell apart, I was at a coffee shop in downtown Portland when I ran into David, Maya's friend who'd asked me out. We'd both changed. He'd gotten divorced too, had done his own rebuilding. We talked for 2 hours about everything and nothing, about healing and starting over and learning to trust again. When we said goodbye, he asked if I'd like to have dinner sometime. I said yes. I didn't know if it would go anywhere, didn't know if I was ready, but I was willing to try. That felt like progress. That night, I sat on my balcony looking out at the Portland skyline. I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, racing home to tell her husband about $100 million. That woman had been so naive, so trusting, so certain that love was enough. I wasn't her anymore. I was harder, more cautious, more careful with my heart. But I was also freer, stronger, more myself than I'd ever been. The inheritance had given me financial freedom, but the betrayal had given me something more valuable. The knowledge that I could survive anything, that I could lose everything and still rebuild, that I was enough, all on my own. Marcus and Sophia had taken 8 years of my life. They'd taken my trust, my family, my sense of safety in the world, but they hadn't taken me. I was still here, still standing, still moving forward. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all. 3 years after the divorce, I got a call from an unknown LA number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Elena, it's Catherine Park, my former divorce attorney. We'd kept in touch sporadically, mostly professional updates about the foundation's legal work. Catherine, hi, is everything okay? There was a pause. I'm calling because I thought you should know. Marcus Reyes filed for bankruptcy last week. I sat down on my couch, processing this. Bankruptcy? Chapter 7, he's liquidating everything. Lost his job 6 months ago, according to the filing. He's got medical debt, credit card debt, and he's 3 months behind on child support for his daughter. Child support? I thought he and Sophia were together. They were. They split up about a year ago. She has full custody. He has supervised visitation that he apparently rarely uses. I should have felt satisfaction. Some vindictive pleasure that the man who had destroyed my life was suffering, but I just felt empty. Why are you telling me this? Because he listed you as a potential creditor. He's claiming you owe him for contributions to the household during your marriage. It's absurd and won't go anywhere, but I wanted you to know before you got official notice. He's still trying to get money from me. He's desperate. The address on file is his parents' house. He's living with them. Elena, I'm telling you this because I know you. I know you might feel some kind of obligation, some urge to help because you're a good person. Don't. He made his choices. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. Marcus was broke, living with his parents, barely seeing his daughter. Everything he'd traded me for had turned to ash. I could help him. I had the resources. 1 phone call, 1 wire transfer, and I could solve all his problems. The old Elena, the one who'd worked herself to exhaustion trying to make everyone else's life easier, wanted to do it. But I wasn't that Elena anymore. I texted Catherine. Thanks for the heads up. Let me know if he actually tries to pursue any claims. Otherwise, I'm not interested. David and I had been dating for 8 months. It was slow, careful, both of us carrying scar tissue from our previous marriages, but it was good. He was steady, honest, showed up when he said he would. Radical concepts after Marcus. We were having dinner at my place when I told him about Marcus's bankruptcy. "How do you feel about it?" he asked. "I don't know, empty. It doesn't feel like justice. It just feels sad." "Do you still love him?" I considered the question honestly. No, I don't think I ever really loved him. I loved who I thought he was. The real Marcus, the one who could do what he did. I never knew that person. That must be strange, spending 8 years with someone and realizing you didn't know them at all. It makes me doubt everything. How do you ever really know someone? David reached across the table and took my hand. You don't. Not completely, that's the terrifying part. You just have to decide if someone is worth the risk. Am I? Worth the risk? He smiled. So far. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't a promise of forever, but it was honest, and that mattered more. That night, after David left, I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I looked up Sophia on social media. Her Instagram was public. I scrolled through photos of Isabella, now 2 years old, a beautiful little girl with Marcus's eyes and Sophia's dark hair. Photos of Sophia looking tired, working at what appeared to be a coffee shop. Photos of a small apartment, nothing like the life she'd probably imagined. One post caught my eye, a photo of Isabella sleeping, caption reading, "Being a single mom is the hardest thing I've ever done, but she's worth it. Even when I'm exhausted and broke and don't know how I'll make rent, she's worth it. Hashtag single mom, hashtag worth it, hashtag high blessed." The comments were sympathetic. Friends offering support. Our cousin Maria writing, "You're so strong, Prima. We're proud of you." I closed the app. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel anger. I just felt the weight of wasted years, wasted love, wasted family. Sophia and I would never be sisters again. That door was closed, locked, and the key thrown away. But seeing her struggle as a single mother, I understood something I hadn't before. She hadn't won. Neither had Marcus. There were no winners in this story, just different kinds of loss. The foundation was thriving. We'd given out over 50 nursing scholarships, funded 3 free clinics in underserved neighborhoods, and created an emergency fund that had helped 200 healthcare workers facing financial crisis. I hired a woman named Patricia to run day-to-day operations. She was former military, organized, brilliant, and had no patience for nonsense. She also had no idea about my personal history, which was refreshing. "We got another application for the emergency fund," she said during our weekly meeting. Single mother, ER nurse, her car broke down and she can't afford repairs. Without a car, she can't get to work. Without work, she can't feed her kid. Approve it. Already did. But Elena, we're getting a lot of these. Single parents, mostly women, in healthcare. They're all one emergency away from catastrophe. I thought about my own life, how I'd been one betrayal away from catastrophe, how Uncle Richard's inheritance had been the only thing standing between me and financial ruin after the divorce. What if we started a program specifically for single parents in healthcare? Longer-term support, not just emergency funds. Patricia's eyes lit up. Like a fellowship? Exactly. Cover childcare, car repairs, housing assistance, whatever they need to stay stable. Let them focus on work and their kids without constantly being in crisis mode. We built it out over the next 6 months. The Single Parent Healthcare Worker Fellowship. Full-year grants that covered basic living expenses, allowing recipients to work without the constant terror of financial collapse. The first recipient was a woman named Jennifer, single mom of 3, ICU nurse, living in her car between shifts because she couldn't afford rent and childcare. When we told her she'd been selected, she broke down crying on the Zoom call. "You're sure? This isn't a mistake?" "It's not a mistake. You're exactly who this program is for." I can't, thank you, God, thank you." Watching her cry, I felt something shift inside me. This was what the money was for, not revenge, not security, not proving anything to anyone. It was for this, for giving people the freedom to survive. My relationship with David deepened slowly. At the 1-year mark, he asked me to move in with him. "I'm not ready," I said. "Okay. When do you think you might be?" "I don't know, maybe never. Is that fair to you?" He thought about it. "Probably not, but I'm willing to wait a little longer. Just keep me updated. Let me know if this is going somewhere or if I'm wasting my time." "I don't know if it's going somewhere." I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust someone again. That's honest. I appreciate that. We kept dating, but I could feel him pulling back slightly, protecting himself. I didn't blame him. I was protecting myself too. And at some point, two people protecting themselves can't actually build anything together. Dr. Chen and I talked about it in therapy. What are you afraid of? She asked. Getting hurt again. Is David likely to hurt you the way Marcus did? No, but I didn't think Marcus was likely to hurt me either. So you're punishing David for Marcus's sins? I'm protecting myself. There's a difference between protection and prison, Elena. You've built walls so high nobody can get in. That's safe, but it's also lonely. I'd rather be lonely than destroyed. Is that true? Because you seem pretty miserable to me. She was right. I was miserable. I'd spent 3 years building this perfect, safe life, and I was lonely in the middle of it. I had work I loved, friends I trusted, and financial security beyond measure. But I came home every night to an empty condo and felt the absence of connection like a physical ache. I broke up with David 2 weeks later. It was gentle, mutual, sad. I can't give you what you need, I told him, and that's not fair to either of us. I get it. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Me too. We hugged goodbye and I cried in my car for 20 minutes. Not because I lost him specifically, but because I'd lost the possibility. The hope that maybe I could trust someone again. 4 years after the divorce, I went back to LA for the first time since the trial. The foundation was opening a new clinic in East LA, and I wanted to be there for the ribbon cutting. The event was small, mostly local community members and healthcare workers. Patricia gave a speech. I gave a speech. We toured the facility, shook hands, took photos. Afterward, I drove past my old neighborhood. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Self-harm, probably. The apartment building looked exactly the same. I sat in my rental car across the street, staring at the window that used to be mine. Someone else lived there now. Someone else was making coffee in that kitchen, sleeping in that bedroom, building a life in the space where mine had fallen apart. My phone rang. Maya. Hey, how's LA? Weird. I'm sitting outside my old apartment. Why would you do that to yourself? I don't know. Closure, torture. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. Want to get dinner when you're back? I have news. Good news or bad news? Good news. Really good news. But I want to tell you in person. We hung up and I took one last look at the apartment. Then I drove away. There was nothing for me there. Just ghosts. Maya's news was that she was pregnant. 12 weeks, healthy, due in January. Oh my God, I said, hugging her tight. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I was nervous to tell you. After everything with Sophia, don't. This is completely different. This is you, and I love you, and I'm going to be the best aunt. We spent the evening looking at baby things online, talking about names, making plans, and I felt genuine joy for the first time in years. Not the careful happiness I'd cultivated, but real, uncomplicated joy. Later, lying in bed, I thought about Sophia's daughter, Isabella, who I'd never met and probably never would. My niece who wasn't my niece. A whole person who existed because of the worst thing that ever happened to me. I wondered if she was happy, if Sophia was a good mother, if Marcus ever thought about what he'd traded for that child. I pulled out my phone and looked at Sophia's Instagram one more time. The most recent post was from 3 days ago. A photo of Isabella at a playground, caption, "My whole world." I typed a comment. She's beautiful. Then I deleted it without posting. Some bridges stay burned, some relationships can't be salvaged. And that was okay. I didn't owe Sophia forgiveness. I didn't owe Marcus anything. I only owed myself the chance to move forward. I blocked Sophia's account, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. I didn't need to know about her life. It wasn't mine anymore. The foundation's 5th anniversary gala was bigger than I'd planned. Patricia had insisted we needed to celebrate our impact, show donors what their money had accomplished. 300 people filled a ballroom in downtown Portland. Healthcare workers we'd helped, donors who'd contributed, community leaders, press. I gave a speech about Uncle Richard, about the gift he'd given me, about choosing to build something good from something painful. 5 years ago, I inherited a fortune, I told the crowd, but I also inherited a choice. I could use that money to insulate myself from the world, to build walls, to stay safe and small and alone, or I could use it to help people, to give others the freedom I'd been given. The freedom to survive, to rebuild, to start over. I paused, looking out at the faces. We've helped over 1,000 healthcare workers in 5 years. We've kept people in their homes, in their jobs, with their kids. We've given scholarships to people who would never have been able to afford nursing school. We've opened clinics in communities that had been abandoned by everyone else. My voice caught. And in doing that, I've learned something important. Healing isn't something you do alone. It's something you do together. Every person we help, every life we change, that's part of my healing too. So thank you. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for helping me turn the worst thing that ever happened to me into something that matters. The applause was overwhelming. People stood. Patricia was crying. Maya was crying. Even the tough foundation board members looked misty. After the speeches during the reception, a young woman approached me, early 20s, nervous, holding a champagne flute like it might explode. Ms. Torres, I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say thank you. I got one of your scholarships 3 years ago. I graduated nursing school last month. I start at OHSU next week. That's wonderful. Congratulations. I wouldn't have made it without your help. I was living in my car, working 3 jobs, trying to make tuition. Your scholarship gave me a chance. It gave me a life. She started crying. I hugged her, this stranger who I'd helped without ever knowing her name. You did the work, I told her. You earned this. I just helped remove some obstacles. Can I tell you something? She asked. I read about what happened to you, the divorce, your sister, all of it. And I thought, if she can survive that and still help people, maybe I can survive my stuff too. What's your stuff? Abusive ex-boyfriend. He used to tell me I was stupid, that I'd never amount to anything. I believed him for a long time. But your scholarship made me think maybe he was wrong. He was wrong, and you're going to be an amazing nurse. After she left, I found Maya at our table. Did you see that? I did. How does it feel? Surreal, good, like maybe everything happened for a reason. You don't really believe that? No, but maybe I'm starting to. That night, alone in my condo, I thought about the scholarship recipient's words. If she can survive that, maybe I can survive my stuff too. I'd spent 5 years thinking of myself as a victim, as someone who'd been destroyed and had to rebuild. But maybe I was something else. Maybe I was proof that you could survive betrayal and still be kind, that you could be hurt and not become hard, that you could choose, every day, to build something good even when everything felt broken. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I unblocked my mother's number and called her. She answered on the 3rd ring. Elena? Hi, Mama. Silence, then. Why are you calling? I don't know. Maybe because 5 years is long enough. Maybe because I'm tired of being angry. Maybe because I watched a stranger cry thanking me last night and I realized I haven't talked to my own mother in half a decade. You were the one who left. You were the one who cut us all off. You took their side. I took the side of family, of forgiveness. They didn't ask for forgiveness, Mama. They asked me to pretend it didn't happen. There's a difference. Another long silence. Then softly. I miss you, Mija. The words hit harder than I expected. I miss you too. Sophia asks about you sometimes. I don't want to talk about Sophia. I know, but she's sorry. She's been sorry for years. She's had a hard time. Marcus left her when Isabella was 6 months old. She's been raising that baby alone, working 2 jobs. Your cousin Maria helps when she can, but, Mama, I don't need to know this. You don't need to forgive her. But maybe you could stop hating her, for your own sake. I thought about that. Did I still hate Sophia? Or was I just so used to the anger that I'd forgotten how to let it go? I'll think about it, I said finally. But Mama, I need you to understand something. If we're going to have a relationship, you can't ask me to reconcile with Sophia. You can't push me to forgive Marcus. You can't tell me I should have handled things differently. What they did broke something in me. I've spent 5 years putting myself back together. I'm not going to let anyone make me feel guilty for protecting myself. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, Mija, I understand. Can we have lunch when I'm in LA next month for work? I would love that. We talked for another 20 minutes, carefully, like people learning to walk after an injury. She told me about her life, her book club, the garden she was planting. I told her about the foundation, about Maya's pregnancy, about my condo. We didn't talk about Marcus or Sophia or Isabella. We just talked, mother and daughter, trying to find our way back to each other. When we hung up, I felt lighter. Not healed, but less heavy. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about excusing what they did. Maybe it was just about deciding their actions didn't get to control my life anymore. I met my mother for lunch 6 weeks later at a small Mexican restaurant in Pasadena. She looked older than I remembered, more gray in her hair, more lines around her eyes. But she smiled when she saw me, and the smile was genuine. We ate and talked and carefully navigated around the landmines in our history. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. As we were saying goodbye in the parking lot, she said, "I'm proud of you, Elena, what you've built with the foundation, the life you've made. I'm proud." I hugged her, and for the first time in 5 years, it felt like I had a mother again. 6 years after the divorce, I was at a medical conference in Chicago when I ran into someone from my past. Dr. Sarah Kim, one of my colleagues from Cedars-Sinai. We'd worked together in the trauma unit, spent countless overnight shifts keeping people alive. "Elena Torres! Oh my God, I can't believe it's you!" We hugged, and she pulled back to look at me. "You look amazing, so different, happy." "I am happy, mostly. What are you doing here?" "Same thing as you, probably. This conference is supposed to be good for networking. Are you still in LA?" "No, Portland. I'm running a foundation now, healthcare focused." "The Elena Torres Foundation? That's yours? You know about it?" "Everyone knows about it. You've funded like half the free clinics in California. Elena, that's incredible." We got coffee after the panel and caught up properly. She told me about her life, her engagement, her promotion to attending. I told her about the foundation, about my life in Portland. "Do you ever think about coming back to nursing?" she asked. "Sometimes. I miss the work, miss feeling useful in that immediate way." "You're useful now. You're helping way more people than you ever could in one ER." "I know, but it's different. Less personal." "So make it personal. Come volunteer at one of your own clinics. Get back on the floor, even if it's just a few shifts a month." The idea took root. I could do that. I could practice again, keep my skills current, stay connected to the work I'd loved. I started volunteering at our East LA clinic 2 Saturdays a month. It was chaos. Beautiful chaos. Families who couldn't afford care elsewhere, kids with ear infections, old people with chronic conditions, people who'd fallen through every other crack in the healthcare system. And it felt good. It felt real. The foundation work was important, but this was immediate, tangible. I was touching people's lives directly again. One Saturday, a woman came in with her daughter. The girl was maybe 7, running a high fever, lethargic. Classic signs of a serious infection. "How long has she been sick?" I asked. 3 days. I wanted to bring her sooner, but I couldn't afford to miss work, and I thought maybe it would get better on its own. I examined the girl, started an IV, got antibiotics going. She needed to be hospitalized, but the mother was panicking about the cost. "Don't worry about the cost," I said. "We have funds for situations like this. Your daughter needs care. Let's focus on that." The mother started crying. "I don't know how to thank you. I was so scared. I thought I was going to lose her because I couldn't afford to save her." I held her hand. "You're not going to lose her. She's going to be fine, and you're a good mother. You brought her here. That's what matters." Later, arranging the hospital transfer, I thought about how many people face that same impossible choice. Care for your child or pay your rent, medicine or food, survival or bankruptcy. I called Patricia. "I want to start an emergency medical fund, not for healthcare workers, for patients, for people who can't afford care." "That's a huge undertaking. Do you know how expensive that could get?" "I have $100 million sitting in accounts earning interest. I think I can afford it." We built it out, partnering with hospitals and clinics across 3 states. People who came to an ER in crisis wouldn't be turned away for inability to pay. The foundation would cover it. It wasn't sustainable long-term. Healthcare costs were astronomical, but it was something. It was using this money, this gift from Uncle Richard, to make sure other people didn't have to choose between health and poverty. 7 years after the divorce, Maya had her second baby. Another healthy pregnancy, a little boy named Lucas. I was there for the delivery, holding her hand, watching new life come into the world. Holding Lucas for the first time, I felt something shift. A longing I'd buried for years. I wanted this. Not with Marcus, not with the life I'd lost. But I wanted to be a mother, to create something good and new. to have someone to love who would be entirely mine. I was 40 years old. Time wasn't infinite. If I wanted kids, I needed to decide soon. I thought about David, about how I'd pushed him away, about all the walls I'd built, about choosing safety over connection. Maybe Dr. Chen had been right. Maybe I was living in a prison of my own making. I started going to therapy again, working through the fear, working on trusting, on opening up, on believing that not everyone would betray me. It was hard work, harder than building the foundation, harder than surviving the divorce. Confronting your own fear is brutal. But slowly, gradually, I started to soften, started to imagine a future that included more than just work and safety, started to imagine love again, partnership, maybe even family. I didn't know what that would look like. Didn't know if I'd meet someone or adopt alone or let it go entirely. But I was open to it now, open to possibility, and that felt like victory. 7 years and I'd finally learned how to live again,